She said, "He's just helping out." I can still hear it, clear as day, the way she tossed it off like it was nothing, like it didn't deserve a second thought. The words were so casual, so harmless on the surface, that if you didn't know any better you'd believe them. And I did. At first, because that's what you do when you love someone. You take their word as truth, even when something deep inside you whispers that it doesn't quite add up. The first time she said it, I had asked about him. He'd been around more than usual, showing up with little excuses. A lift here, advice there, dropping things off at the house like he belonged. I noticed the way she lit up when his name was mentioned, the way she was quick to defend him whenever someone joked about how often he was around. I'd half laughed, half joked one night, asking why he was suddenly part of our daily routine, and she smiled and said, "Relax, he's just helping out." And maybe I could have left it there if life hadn't placed that damned envelope in my hands. It was a Thursday. I had gotten home from work early, grabbed the stack of mail on the counter, and started sorting through it absent-mindedly. Bills, junk, a flyer for a pizza place. Then I saw it, a thick official envelope, not addressed to me, but to both of us. My name, her name, side by side. I almost didn't open it. Almost, but something in me, call it instinct, call it survival, told me to tear it open. What slid out wasn't just paper, it was a bomb. Mortgage agreement, pages of legal jargon, interest rates, signatures, and at the bottom, in black ink, were two names, hers and his, not mine, his. My vision blurred. For a second, I thought maybe I'd read it wrong. Maybe it was some kind of cosigner arrangement, something she had done as a favor. But no, page after page it was clear. This wasn't a favor. This was ownership. This was commitment. This was two people tying themselves financially, legally, intimately, into a future I had no part in. I sat at the table, the papers spread out like a crime scene, and I swear I felt the ground tilt beneath me. The woman I shared my life with, the one who promised me honesty, had stood in front of a notary and signed her name beside another man's on a mortgage. And all the while she looked me in the eyes and said, "He's just helping out." When she came home that night, I couldn't look at her the same way. She breezed in, humming, carrying groceries, kissing me on the cheek, like everything was normal. And I wanted to scream. I wanted to shove the papers in her face and demand answers. But I did. I tucked them back into the envelope, slid it into my drawer and said nothing. Because if I confronted her then, she'd twist it. She'd tell me I misunderstood. She'd cry, accuse me of paranoia. No, I wasn't going to give her that. Instead, I waited. Do you know what it's like to live with a secret like that? To lie in bed beside someone knowing they've already chosen someone else. Legally, financially, maybe even emotionally, but they're still pretending to belong to you. It's suffocating. It's like breathing water, every gasp burning your chest. And yet you smile. You laugh at their jokes. You hold their hand in public, because you're waiting for the right moment to cut the mask off their face and show the world what they really are. I became sharper after that. Every excuse she made, every little absence, I logged it in my mind. She said she was working late. Was she with him, signing more papers? She said she was meeting friends. Were those friends really him, poring over plans for their new place together? I watched her carefully, the way she guarded her phone, the way her smile faltered when his name popped up on the screen. And all the while, the mortgage sat in my drawer like a loaded gun. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't just break you once. It breaks you in waves. The first wave hits when you find the proof. The second, when you watch them lie to your face after you already know. The third, when you realize you can never unsee it, and each wave cuts a little deeper, until you're no longer the same person who started. I started changing. Quietly. Outwardly, I was still the husband she knew, steady, calm, dependable. But inside, I was building something. A case. A strategy. An exit. The first step was to gather more. I checked the credit card statements. There it was. Charges tied to the new mortgage, payments that lined up with her errands. I checked her email one night while she was in the shower. Just one peek. And there it was. Correspondence with the bank. His name copied on every thread. My stomach turned, but I kept reading, filing it all away. Then came the slip-up. She was on the phone in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones, but she didn't know I was just around the corner. "Yes, our place," she whispered. "Our place. 2 words that slammed into me harder than anything else. Not her place. Not his. Our, a word she was supposed to use with me. That was the night I decided I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to expose. And the perfect opportunity arrived when her family invited us over for a dinner. A big gathering with cousins, siblings, parents. The whole spread. She wanted to wear a new dress. Wanted me to stand beside her like nothing was wrong. And I agreed. Because I knew what was coming. We sat at that long table, laughter spilling around us. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic filling the air. Her mother toasted to family. Her father beamed. And she smiled, her hand resting lightly on mine. And I smiled back, because the papers were folded in my jacket pocket, heavy as stone. That's where part 2 begins, when silence turns into revelation, when the mortgage that bound her to him becomes the key that sets me free. I remember the weight of those papers in my jacket pocket. That night, more than I remember the food on the table or the laughter around it. It felt like I was carrying bricks against my chest, like every breath was heavier because of what I knew. She was glowing that evening, playing the role of the devoted wife perfectly. She laughed at her father's jokes. She passed dishes around the table. She even leaned against me when her sister teased us about being the golden couple. If anyone looked in from the outside, they would have seen harmony. But inside me it was thunder. I had proof in my pocket that the woman smiling beside me, the one squeezing my hand under the table, was already building a life with someone else. And not in whispers, not in fleeting moments, but in ink and signatures, in a mortgage with her name joined to his. Her father raised a glass and toasted to family, to loyalty, to being there for each other. The words rang in my ears, like a cruel joke. Everyone lifted their glasses, and so did I, but instead of drinking I cleared my throat. I'd like to add something, I said, my voice steady. The table fell quiet, curious. All eyes turned to me. She smiled nervously, sensing maybe that I was about to embarrass her with some sentimental turn. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope. The room seemed to shrink as I laid it gently on the table in front of me, my hand resting on top of it like it was evidence in a courtroom. I want to talk about honesty, I began, my voice calm even, about what it means when you say you're building a life with someone. I opened the envelope and slid the papers out slowly, spreading them across the table so everyone could see. 'Cause while we've been here playing house, she's been building something else. With him. I pointed to the signature line, her name beside his. A mortgage, a future, signed behind my back. The silence was deafening. Forks clinked against plates. Someone gasped. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. She went pale, her lips parting but no words coming. Then she tried to laugh, a high, brittle sound that cracked halfway through. It's not what you think, she stammered. Her father leaned forward, squinting at the papers, his brow furrowing as he read. This is real, he asked, his voice tight with disbelief. I nodded. Very real, pages of it, payments already made, and every bit of it tied to him. I didn't need to say his name. Everyone already knew who I meant. She reached for the papers, her hands shaking. Please, let me explain, she begged, her eyes darting around the table as if searching for someone. Anyone to throw her a lifeline. But I pulled them back before she could touch them. No, I said quietly. You've been explaining for months. He's just helping out. That's what you told me. Over and over. But this, I tapped the signature line with my finger. This isn't helping. This is commitment. This is a life. And it's not with me. The weight of the truth crushed the room. Her sister muttered something under her breath. Her father sat back, stunned, while her mother's eyes filled with tears. And she was trembling, her face crumbling, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking. It was supposed to be temporary. I was confused. He made me feel. I held up a hand, stopping her. Don't you dare say he made you feel something I couldn't. Don't insult me with that cliché. You didn't just feel. You signed. You chose. You built. You stood in front of a notary and put his name next to yours. And then you came home and told me he was just helping out. The room was silent again, except for her sobbing. I gathered the papers, slid them back into the envelope, and stood. I'm done, I said simply. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The calm was louder than any scream could have been. And then I left. Outside, the cold night air bit into my lungs, but it felt cleaner than anything I'd breathed in months. Behind me I could hear her voice rising, desperate, muffled through the walls. But I didn't turn back. I walked to my car, opened the door, and for the first time since I found those papers, I felt free. The days that followed were chaos. She called, texted, left voicemails that swung wildly between rage and pleading. It was just a business arrangement. It didn't mean anything. I still love you, but mortgages don't happen by accident. You don't accidentally tie your future to another man's name. You don't mistakenly build a life behind your husband's back. I met with a lawyer. I handed him the envelope, the credit card statements, the emails I'd quietly collected. He flipped through them, nodded, and said, "You've got everything you need." And I realized then that I wasn't crazy. I hadn't been paranoid. I had been right all along. When she finally cornered me in person, her eyes swollen, her voice hoarse from crying, she tried one last time. "It was a mistake," she whispered. "Please, we can fix this." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. Not rage, not grief, just emptiness. Because when someone builds a house with someone else, there's no patching the cracks in the home they abandoned. I handed her the divorce papers. "This is what's real now," I told her. "This, and the fact that you'll never again look me in the eye and say he's just helping out, and expect me to believe it." The weeks stretched into months. Friends took sides. Some pitied her, others pitied me. His name came up less and less, until eventually I heard he'd left her too. That's the thing about men like him. They want what's forbidden, what's secret. Once it's out in the open, once it's messy, they vanish. And she was left with nothing. No house, no mortgage, just the ashes of what she thought she could build on lies. Me? I started over. It wasn't easy. I won't pretend it was. Some nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the words "he's just helping out" echoing in my head like a cruel refrain. But slowly, piece by piece, I rebuilt myself. I filled my house with new things, new furniture, new routines, new memories that weren't haunted by signatures and lies. And when people ask me now what ended it, I don't say divorce. I don't say cheating. I tell them the truth. She said he was just helping out. But then I found a mortgage with their names on it, and every time I see the same look on their faces, a mix of disbelief and pity, the kind of look you give someone who lived through a fire and made it out the other side. Because that's what betrayal is. A fire. It burns down the life you thought you had, leaves you choking on smoke, staring at the ruins. But once the ashes settle, you realize something important. You're still standing, and now you get to choose what to build next. And me? I built freedom.